Good. Good morning, Mount Vernon. This is the real estate committee meeting for Mount Vernon. The date is January 31st, 2025. The time now is 9:33 a.m. And so we're going to call this meeting to order. Roll call
Controller Martin,
here.
Assessor Vanderpool. Here.
Here.
Okay, so the first order of business, because this is the first meeting of the year, is to elect the officers for the real estate committee. And so I open the floor for nominations for chair. Stephanie. Are there any nominations?
I make nominations for Dr. Darren Moore to be chairman.
More?
Morton
Oh,
to be chairman for the real estate committee. For
I
the
second
calendar
that
year.
nomination.
of course you would. Okay, so probably move a second that Darren Morton be the chair for 2025. Roll call.
Assessor Vanderpool. Aye. Council President Brown.
Aye.
Controller Burton.
Yeah. Aye. All right. Vice chair, nominations for vice chair.
Oh, I nominate Assessor Stephanie Vanderpool to be the vice chair of the real estate committee.
Second. Roll call.
Controller Martin.
Aye.
Council President Brown.
Aye.
Vanderpool.
Aye.
All right, now we have to appoint a secretary for the board, the committee rather.
Okay, well, I nominate to appoint or move to appoint Antoinette Anderson as the secretary of the real estate committee.
Is there a second?
I second.
Properly, okay. Good. Roll call.
Controller Martin.
Aye.
Assessor Vanderpool.
Aye.
Council President Brown.
Aye.
Okay, so those are the officers for the year. Next is the approval of the last minutes. It's in November 22nd, 2024.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from November 22nd of 2024.
Second.
Probably moving second. Roll call.
Controller Martin.
Aye.
Assessor Vanderpool.
Aye.
Council President Brown.
Abstention. Abstention.
Okay. Moving on to correspondence. Written correspondence, I guess it is.
As of the last meeting, which was November 22nd, an offer submitted by Lauren P. Razor Esquire for the following properties. And an email request for financial documentation was sent to her following her email. In that email for the financial document request was information about the Tyler versus Hennepin County case. The properties that she had interest in is 224 North 7th Avenue, 230 East 5th Street, 328 South 1st Street. Then following individuals requested property lists or wanted information about submitting offers on property. That information was emailed to each of these individuals along with information about the Tyler versus Hennepin County case. And that was Nigel Akinwale, Dorman McLaurin, Viola Talia Farrow, and Andre Carnero. And that is it.
Okay, and so we've taken those in. We've also included any any bids along with all of the other bids in which we have received. So they have been properly cataloged, right? Moving on to the public comment period. We'll start with I guess, should we start in or out?
We can start.
Start in first, those that are in person. Is that
Oh, me, sorry. Hi, my name is Esther Sime. I've been in pregnant life here and I'm interested in the property at 301 Second Avenue, South Second Avenue. Thank you very much. I just want to know what is going on.
okay? Thank you. Come on up to the table so we can make sure you got you on the mic.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is Jorge Ibarra, and I'm here just to follow up on the offer that I made on the property, 224 North 7th Avenue, and just to hear what's been happening for the last meetings and what state we are right now.
Okay.
What was the property?
Excuse me?
The property.
224
North 7th Avenue.
North 7th Avenue.
We have 3 people online.
Okay,
They came in, the first person didn't speak.
okay. Heathcliff online, you can unmute yourself if you have any comments. Are they unmuted?
They have the ability.
Okay, if you wish to speak, please unmute yourself. So my speaker, oh, your speaker's not working or your mic's not working. Okay, we're gonna have to move on to the next person then.
He is
Good
unmuted.
morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Cintia Ibarra. My father, Jorge Ibarra, is also in person today. Likewise, I'm also inquiring about if there are any updates on the 224 North 7th Avenue property regarding the bid that we made.
Okay,
Next, Shaheen.
There's a person listed as Darius iPhone.
okay, just as person listed as iPhone.
I think that's Darius, our attorney.
Oh, Derek.
And Heathcliff is unmuted now as well.
Okay, Heathcliff.
They said that they're just listening and taking notes.
Okay. Okay, all right, no other comments? Okay. So it's time for us to respond to it, I guess. Is muted? Okay. Everyone knows the last time that we talked, what we said we were going to do, we were starting to put together the calculations for each of these properties. Because with the Tyler Hennepin case, that we needed to have an understanding of what the actual cost was for the city as it pertains to what was owed on the properties when the properties were actually foreclosed, and any additional kind of charges that the city may have incurred over the period of time. There was some real confusion or lack of clarity around what that all included until of recent, I think, when the state finally amended the real property tax law, in particular, section 1166, which they then added a section about the surplus and what needed to be done in that process. there still is some real confusion, well, lack of clarity around properties that have been kind of in possession of the city for a long period of time before this particular decision from the Supreme Court came and the state had changed its changed the state law. Nevertheless, what we've done is we've begun to calculate those that cost to get those figures, starting off with, of course, the properties that we deemed are one of imminent kind of importance, meaning one, that there may be something going on with the property. There may be people that are actually in the properties, occupying the properties, and or there's family members also, or someone who has a legal interest to the property, starting with those first, and then moving on to the next ones. I'll talk about that when we get down to new business about what that process has been like, because it has not been as easy as I kind of thought it might have been, but we've gotten a few of them done. So that's kind of where we are. So today, what we're going to be doing is talk about what we've really done in new business, what we've done with some of those properties that fit into that first category, which I'm deeming as phase one. Okay, and then we'll talk about what are the next phases, the next scheduling for after that. All right, that's anybody. You're new to this one this year, so anything?
No, I agree so far.
Okay. All right. So moving on the new business, next thing is actually the calculation process and market value of process and what the procedures are. So as you know, we had done probably about 2 years ago a appraisal pretty much of all of the properties, which kind of gave us kind of this market kind of value. The goal typically is based upon even the law is to try to get as much as we are responsible to try to get as much as we can as close to market value of it. And it was cut, and really with the Tyler Pennon case, it also accentuated the importance of trying to get to that, because the goal for at least the law is to be able to have the city to recoup what it actually is owed, but then also any surplus on that, any investment that the owner has put in for them to be able to have access to that and get that back, right? Which kind of changes the dynamics of how this process had been done, I guess, historically in the past, right, to that. So one, we're using the market, the appraisals that we've done, and then we're also using the calculations that now have been done. So I've assigned one of my chief accountants who has his history in Mount Vernon and with the actual process of in-rem foreclosures to work on the calculations for each of these properties. We have completed, I think it's 6 of them have been completed at this point. And the process is 3 different ways in which I asked her to do this. One is to calculate what was the cost, what were the taxes from the time that we took possession of it, or actually the time that it went into delinquency up until today. What would that number look like? Right? Meaning what inclusive of the tax and the interest for the period leading up to the foreclosure, the tax and the interest from the period from foreclosure to date. That was one calculation. And then the other calculation was to also tell me what was the cost, of what we foreclosed on the property for. So time that they went into delinquency until the time in which we actually foreclosed on the property. Right, and then the third was from the time that what we actually foreclosed on the property for. So the time they went into delinquency, with the taxes and the interest and penalties up to the time that we actually foreclosed on it, which would amount to the amount that we foreclosed on it for. Plus then, the taxes that the city paid to the county, to the school and to the county from the time we foreclosed until date. Absent any interest, absent any penalties, right? So I get a full 360 view of what this is, and then have conversation with the attorneys as to what of these three categories should we be looking at? Should we be looking at the first one? Which is probably unlikely, but should we be looking at the second one? Or should we be looking at the third one? And that's done.
For clarity for me, the interest that is excluded on the third calculation that you mentioned, is that excluding school, and,
Yeah, because we don't,
taxes?
because we don't pay interest
oh, for the school?
for the school or the county, right? Because one, the county is made whole immediately.
Immediately, yeah.
So there is no interest. So yes, so no, it only includes the actual tax amount that is paid to them, because we didn't pay any interest on it. We don't, municipalities don't necessarily pay interest each.
Yeah. Yep.
You gotta mute somebody.
Darius, are you talking to us?
Sorry, I hit the wrong button.
Okay, no problem. All right, so so to understand, so that was the process for calculation and market value.
I have a question, Chair. What about the expenses if we paid any on the properties of those also included in the?
If we have any, yeah, it would be, but, to be honest, for the most part, we had not been tracking that until of recent. Like, so for example, there is a property, well, we sold it already, but like, for example,
Yes.
if property that we may have actually torn down something, we
Yes.
would have the cost, right?
Yes.
The property on the, North Terrace, is it? The corner of Terrace and,
Oh, yes.
and Oak, where we had to do the
The
retaining wall.
Again, yes.
That would be included in that cost when
So
we
the
get to
expense
that.
would be the
The expenses to
maintenance,
that.
Okay,
But for the most part, the city has not
Okay.
really kept,
okay,
up until recently, we've been starting to keep, if we do any kind of maintenance on properties.
okay. Thank you.
Okay? All right, so here's where we are. So there are, five, actually there's six, I just can't, there's actually five, well, there's five. But, and I can't seem to find the 106 Hillside, but I thought I had that. I thought I sent that to you. Thought I had it.
No, it's there. It's
there.
the last one, the last slide. 106 Hillside.
Yeah. Full all agreed to. Yeah, it's the start of the file name that you sent to us.
All right, well, anyway, let me start with the other ones first. So, 224, North 7th Avenue. So when we look at 224, North 7th Avenue, what we end up seeing is that if you're looking at all of the taxes from the very beginning, from the time it went into foreclosure to date, it amounts to $580 $1,556. The amount that it was foreclosed on at the time was is $79,591. I want to make sure the board is following me on this, right?
Yeah.
You got it?
I got you.
Right, okay. All right, and then the amount that basically is that between the amount that was owed at the time in which it was foreclosed on and then what the city would have actually paid out in taxes to the other
Tax levies.
tax levies, right? Would it be $202,464? Okay. When you look at, and again, this is a property that has occupants as they are here today. We also have 529 East Third Street, which using the same format. The first number would be 606,939. The second number, which is the amount that we foreclosed for, 161,953. And the amount that we foreclosed and we would have paid in taxes would be 315,749. Again, that is a property that is occupied. It's a commercial property. It's occupied actually by the owner
Yes.
that actually lost the property. Okay. Then the amount, and the answer to that question is no, these calculations are not, these are, we're in the midst of some calculations are not public calculations. I'm giving them now. So what we're talking about, right? So, at one time when we get finalized on this, we will then deal with that then. 467 East Fifth Street amount, which also has an occupant, which is basically a relative of the person who lost the property. Is $333,617. And that would be, again, all taxes from the time it went into delinquency to date, taxes and interest. That's the first number. The second number is $60,796, which is the amount that it was foreclosed on. Okay. And the amount that would be if we looked at the amount that was foreclosed on plus the amount that the city paid in taxes to the other tax levies is $145,611. For the hillside, which also has family that is living in that property, the amount that it would be if it included everything from the time that it went into delinquency would be $472,483. And then the amount that it was foreclosed on was for $101,474. And then the amount inclusive of that which we paid in taxes to the other tax levies is $366,478. Right. And then the last one that we have for at least today for discussion is 119 South 4th Avenue. And that is not a property that actually is occupied, but that's a property right now that it needs some immediate attention. It creates a challenge for the city. All right. And that again would be $440,088 total, all inclusive amounts. Amount that it was foreclosed on is $133,000. 558. And then, the amount that it would be if it were inclusive of that which we paid to other municipalities or tax levies, 197,752.
So, Comptroller, just from Board Chairperson, for my edification, the payment plan that we currently have with the school district for I think it's 21, 22, and 23. There were no interest associated with that.
Yes, it was.
There is. Is that included in here?
No, because we wouldn't, because again, it would not have been, that would not have been an amount that would have, interest would not have been included in that for us. Even though it's not there because technically, because it's underneath our name, interest would not have been for that. Yeah.
The property is exempt for the city tax purposes.
Yeah, and those would have been paid, so it wouldn't have been a part of that was outstanding. Yeah. So, based upon the fact that we have this, these calculations, right? We hear for these properties. The next decision for this board is to now decide on the public comment period is over, sir. So, but I'm gonna give you grace. Just a moment. What's the question? What's the question?
It's just about the options that you just mentioned is just the option one out of the three that the lawyers have put on the table.
Like that again?
The option that you just gave for these properties is option one or option two or three or which?
No, those are not options. I'm just telling you what the calculation.
Yeah, but if I'm not mistaken, I think I heard you said the city comes out already with like three options. Like one, it has to be this, that, and that. So this is just not relative to that.
The city has to say that again?
The city has made you just mentioned that the city have come with three different options, like paying, the time the property was taken from the city, with the taxes and no taxes and all of that. So this option that you mentioned for these properties is one of those options that the city might take.
Yeah, no, so it's not options. What it is all I'm doing is giving what the cost, what the calculations are for the cost, depending on what is supposed to be included. Right? So we're trying to narrow down to figure out exactly what is it when the law says that we have to include, right? What is the taxes that was owed and any cost that the city incurred, right? Right, on that, what do we include, right, in that? Which is why wanted to make sure that we covered it, so we at least got an idea of what that
Yes.
is for each category, right, on it. There's not an option.
Yes, calculations. I meant to say
The
that.
calculations
Thank
for us to know exactly what that is. Gives us an idea of what we're looking at, right? We know, so bottom line is minimally, right? The middle one has to be met, right? Minimally, right? Because that's the amount that we foreclosed on the property for, right? The question really is that because the city then now also had to pay for the taxes to the other municipalities, is that an allowable amount, right, on it?
To the other tax levy.
To the other tax levies, right? Is that allowable? That's the question. In any old case, now that we have at least the figures, we now can we can begin to make some decisions based upon now the offers that basically have coming for the properties, right? We have to take into we have to decide what is going to be that, I guess, evaluation for standard evaluation, evaluation for each of these properties so that we can then make a recommendation to the city council as to where to sell them. The reason I started with these because, again, especially where you have people who are related to someone, they technically are an heir and have an interest in the property, right? And basically dealing with them will eliminate some of the other stuff, which is trying to do this whole escrow thing with the court, because it basically goes back into the family. Right, which is why, and on top of that, it also promotes this, trying to get people, back in their homes, so forth and so on, right? Then you've got, right, the situation where you've got people that actually are occupied and want, and have an interest in it. And so the question is how do we evaluate that, right? And what's the value around that? So, the next step is for us, now that we have the numbers, is now for us to look at each of the bids, right? And the letters that came in, because we asked them in their letters, right, to tell us what their best value is, and then we asked them kind of what their purpose was, right, for the property, or or interest in the property. And we've got some that, you know, this is basically that they've been there. We got another one, 52 Missouri too, is also another one that we also did too. We also have, that's the other one that's occupied.
And that's also a family member.
Well, yes. Yes, that's also a family member too. 52 Missouri. Okay, and that is, first number will be 632,761. The amount we foreclosed on it for was 116 for 111, 111. And the amount again that we foreclosed and we've paid in taxes on it is 271, 760, 763. Right. And to the question, and all of this information that we're talking about today just will be part of our minute. Okay. All right, so the next phase of this, the next step rather, in this phase is for us to make some decisions on these properties based upon, or if we're going this route, which means if we're going the bid route. If we're not, if we're going to go auction route, then we're going to have to organize a complete auction on these properties.
So I have a legal question. So, and if we can go into executive session, just to discuss
Okay,
around Tyler and application does.
okay. Okay. So anything, and I think we need to, at this point, based upon what's happening, now that we started to do this, I think what we need to do is to decide to close off acceptance of any bids. I would say at this point, we've done it. Either there's no questions at this point, and we passed the public period. Right? So if they have questions for that, they can send it through email, I guess, to me. Okay. Because otherwise, and the reason I suggest that is because I think that otherwise this continues to just become a rolling process, and we're now in the middle of this. We just, at this point, unless there's something legal that says that we cannot do it, cannot stop taking bids at this point.
I don't know offhand, I didn't look into that. But I would think that if you keep accepting bids, you could keep accepting bids until the end of time. I think you have to have some kind of cutoff.
Right. 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 Okay, so committee, what is your pleasure, dear?
First of all, I want to say thank you to the chair, for the tax calculation breakdown on all 6 of the properties. I know it was a heavy lift for you and your office, along with everything else that you do for the city. As a real estate, member. I'm suggesting that, we probably have to have a special meeting, probably, sooner than later. And I do agree that we should probably go into executive session to see how we're going to probably baseline, how we're gonna handle these, beginning in these 6 properties first before we move forward with the others, or if we're going to either decide to do an auction. So I think that's something that we would have to discuss first.
Okay. Yeah, no, I do agree that this is not, now where we are, we're not talking about, waiting. I mean, we are gonna have to have special meetings.
Yes.
To try to get these, to get these things resolved. Because now at this point, we have data. We can now begin to kind of make the decisions that's in alignment with the law. So that we can at least get some of these properties back on the tax roll, where they belong, rather than sitting with us and the city eating kind of this the tax on these properties. Right? And so we know that, have, the bids that are in, okay. So barring, any legal ramification around it, then we need to figure out when we want to stop kind of taking bids. So, yeah, can we look into it and find out?
Yes.
Yeah, so
I'll let
we
you
can, sure that we close that off. All right. So we're gonna go into executive session, I guess, to talk about that we can come back out if there's any decisions that need to be made. But what I do want to say kind of to the public here now is, so now we are one step closer to this. I think the next thing is going to be that we're going to end up calling a meeting. We call a meeting specifically to talk about a property, to actually recommend a conveyance of title to a particular bid that has been given in. Anybody who has bidded on it will be notified that on that meeting that is happening. So that we ensure that people who have interest in that particular property are given due notice to know that we are having a meeting about the property that you have interest in, right? Will be done without you actually not knowing, okay, on the property. So.
To be clear, the special will only address the 6 properties that you gave calculations for.
Yes, we'll only address the ones that, and it may be all, or it may be
Or
some,
one or two, yeah.
or some of them, depending upon right where we are. But yeah, the meetings will only address that, right? Because what I'm trying to do is we're trying to get all of this done, but it's just such a mammoth of.
No, I know it's an enormous, task.
And it's all because this has been on for so long. All right. Okay, so is there a motion to go into executive session?
I make a motion that we go into executive session.
A second.
Probably move in second. Roll call.
Controller Martin,
Aye.
Assessor Randall.
Aye.
Council President Brown.
Aye.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you all for
Thank
coming.
you all. Yes, you can cut it on.